This video is going to look at responding to a past question 11 from a prelim SOR exam. The question: outline and explain the characteristics of religion. The first thing we do is have a look at those key verbs. Outline means to sketch in general terms, indicate the main features of. And explain is to relate cause and effect, make the relationships between things evident. It's a good idea to use the keywords from the question to kickstart with your topic sentence. There are four main characteristics of religion: beliefs and believers, sacred texts and writings, ethics, and ceremonies and rituals. So now we're going to have a look at each of those characteristics. The first one we're going to have a look at is beliefs and believers. And we're going to outline that. We're going to say what it is. All organized religions have a system, beliefs, which offers believers a comprehensive picture of reality, providing a foundation in knowing the best way to live life. So now we're going to explain the link between the two. Believers accept the worldview of the religion and make sense of life through the ideas and values of that religion. So we're now going to look at sacred texts and writings. If a religious text contains material revealed by gods or God, it is said to be sacred. And now outline what sacred texts and writings are. Sacred texts and writings record the teachings of the founder and can be written, oral, or in the form of art. Now we're going to give some examples of sacred texts and writings. The New Testament, for example, records the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus for Christianity. And the Quran documents the spiritual experiences of Muhammad for Islam. So now we'll talk about the third characteristic, ethics. Ethics can be seen as a set of guidelines by which the adherent lives their lives, the purpose of which is to clarify what is right or wrong, what is allowed and what should be avoided. Religious traditions spell out the consequences if such guidelines are not followed. So there's the link between ethics and the believers, the tradition. Many ethical teachings can be found in the sacred texts and writings. For instance, now we're going to talk about some examples. The Decalogue or Ten Commandments in the Torah for the Jewish adherents, and the 5 precepts to avoid suffering and to weaken the effects of desire found in the Buddhist Tripitaka. And then finally we're going to outline rituals and ceremonies by saying what they are. Rituals and ceremonies are customary acts that involve special, deliberate and repeatable patterns of behaviour. And the link between rituals and ceremonies and what they do for believers: they bring the past to the present and enable believers to enact their beliefs and commemorate past events. For example, in the Jewish faith, the Passover commemorates the Jewish exodus from slavery in Egypt, and the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca reflects the sacrifice made by Abraham when God told him to sacrifice his son Isaac. Also, the Catholic Mass recalls the Last Supper before Jesus was sentenced to death and rose again. And so just a brief concluding link back to our topic sentence. Hence it can be seen that the 4 characteristics are evident in all religions. I don't know if that's a great concluding link, but in any case. Alright, so we've got our examples in grey. Okay, I just want to draw your attention to the conjunctions in the text. Okay, conjunctions link ideas together. So depending on the relationship between the ideas determines the conjunction that you'll use. So whenever you want to use an illustrative conjunction to give an example, for example, or for instance, or this is shown in, all those kind of conjunctions will link with an example of that idea. You could also have started your text with words like firstly, secondly, thirdly. It's a bit repetitive after a while, and for the last one you could have said finally. That's if you wanted to order your ideas in that way. Another for example here, and we've got for instance. The other thing I'd like to show you is some key vocabulary that I think we need to be mindful of. All different religions have different worldviews. The New Testament. We haven't used the Bible here because the Bible is a combination of the Old Testament plus the New Testament, and it's the New Testament that is, relevant for Christianity. The Old Testament, the correct terms for those are words like the Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and for Jewish people, that is one of their key texts. Also, we call it the 10 Commandments. The Jewish people call it the Decalogue. So it's good to use those correct terms. So that's about it. Thank you so much for listening.